I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. I just lay in bed staring at that message, reading it over and over until the words stopped making sense. We need to talk about Thursday night. Who was we? The women? The police? Westbrook's lawyers? Someone else entirely? Come alone. That part scared me the most because people who have innocent conversations don't tell you to come alone. That's what people say in movies right before something bad happens. But I also knew I had to go, had to know what this was about, had to face whatever consequences were coming for reading those messages, for being there that night, for caring when maybe I should have just walked past. By the time morning came, I'd run through 1,000 scenarios in my head, each one worse than the last. Maybe the women had figured out someone found their phone, tracked me down somehow, were angry that I'd invaded their privacy. Or maybe Westbrook had security cameras I hadn't noticed, had footage of me watching from across the street, was building some kind of case. Or maybe the police had connected my 911 call to the scene, wanted to know why I'd called and hung up, what I'd seen, what I knew. I called in sick to work again. My boss sounded concerned this time. "You okay? That's twice in a month." "Yeah, I have a thing I need to handle. Personal thing. I'll be back Monday." "Okay, take care of yourself." I hung up feeling guilty. I'd never been the type to lie or skip work, but here I was, changed by a phone I'd found 3 months ago, still dealing with ripples from that one decision. I spent the morning pacing my apartment, made coffee I didn't drink, made breakfast I didn't eat, took a shower that didn't make me feel any cleaner. At 2 p.m., I forced myself to get dressed, jeans and a sweater. Nothing fancy, nothing that looked like I was trying too hard or not trying at all, just normal, even though nothing about this felt normal. I took the subway downtown. The ride felt familiar now. I'd made this trip so many times over the past months, but this time was different. This time I was going because someone had asked me to, someone who knew I'd been there, someone who wanted to talk. I got to the coffee shop at 2:45, 15 minutes early. I went inside, ordered a coffee I didn't want, and sat at a table near the window, the same table I'd sat at that Thursday night. I don't know why. Maybe it felt right. Maybe I wanted to face this in the same place where it had all happened. The minutes crawled by. 2:50, 2:55. I kept checking my phone. No new messages, just that one from last night telling me to be here. At exactly 3 p.m., the door opened. A woman walked in. Not the woman in the hoodie, not the second woman either, someone I'd never seen before. She was older, maybe 40, professional looking, dark suit, serious expression. She scanned the coffee shop until her eyes landed on me. Then she walked straight over. "You the one who found the phone?" she asked. No introduction, no pleasantries, just straight to it. My mouth went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." She sat down across from me without asking. "Yes, you do. Tuesday evening, 3 months ago, you found a burner phone on the subway platform. You read the messages. You showed up that Thursday night. You watched." My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could probably hear it. "Who are you?" "My name is Patricia Morrison. I'm a lawyer. I represent the women you were watching that night." "A lawyer? Okay, that was better than a cop, maybe. I didn't do anything illegal." "I know. That's not why I'm here." She pulled out a folder from her bag, set it on a table between us. "I'm here because we need your help." That wasn't what I had expected. My help? With what? "Westbrook is backing out of the settlement." I felt like I'd been punched. "What?" "But he agreed. They had it in writing." "He did, and we do. But he's claiming the agreement was signed under duress, that he was threatened, coerced. He's trying to invalidate the entire thing." "But that's not true. I was there. They didn't threaten him. They just gave him papers and talked to him." Patricia leaned forward. "Exactly. You were there. You saw what happened, and we need you to testify to that." "Testify? Like in court?" "Possibly. Right now we're trying to avoid court, but Westbrook's lawyers are being aggressive. They're claiming my clients harassed him, stalked him, threatened his life. That's ridiculous. I agree, but he's a wealthy man with expensive lawyers, and without someone independent to corroborate what actually happened that night, it becomes he said, she said, again." She opened a folder, pulled out papers. "I need you to sign a statement describing what you saw, what actually happened." I stared at the papers. My hands were shaking. "How did you find me?" The 911 call. The police report mentioned an abandoned emergency call from across the street around the time of the incident. We subpoenaed phone records, found your number, found you. So it had come back to me, just like I had feared last night. The trail that led right to my door. I could get in trouble for reading the messages, for keeping the phone. You won't, I promise. What you did wasn't illegal. Invasion of privacy requires intent to harm or profit. You had neither. You were trying to prevent what you thought might be a crime. That's not only legal, it's admirable. I don't feel admirable. I feel like I snooped on someone's private life. Patricia's expression softened slightly. Those women know you read their messages. They know you were there that night, and they're grateful. Because if you hadn't been, if there wasn't an independent witness, Westbrook would absolutely win. He'd walk away, again, and everything they fought for would be for nothing. I looked out the window, at the building across the street, Westbrook's building, where he'd worked for 15 years, where he'd harassed those women, where his empire had started to crumble. What happens if I don't sign? Then the settlement probably falls apart. Westbrook argues duress. We argue breach of contract. It goes to court, drags on for years, costs a fortune, and at the end of it all, he might win, because juries are unpredictable, because his lawyers are good, because the system still favors powerful men. And if I do sign, then we have leverage, an independent witness who can confirm that what happened that night was not harassment or coercion. It was a legitimate attempt to hold someone accountable. Westbrook's lawyers will back down, the settlement will stand, and those women can finally move on with their lives. I sat there for a long moment, thinking about those messages, about the fear in the woman's voice when the cops showed up, about the look of peace on her face when I saw her on the subway platform a month ago. Can I read the statement first? Patricia pushed the papers toward me. Of course. I read through it carefully. It was straightforward, just the facts. What I'd seen, when I'd seen it, no opinions, no interpretations, just a witness account of what had happened that Thursday night. It didn't mention the phone, didn't mention the messages, just said I'd been in the area and had observed the interaction. Why doesn't this mention the phone, the messages? Because it's not relevant to what we're proving. We're not trying to expose their plan. We're just trying to show that what happened that night was not threatening or illegal. Your observation of the actual event is what matters. I picked up the pen Patricia had placed on the table, held it over the signature line. My hands were shaking. If I sign this, am I done? Is this over? That depends on Westbrook. If he backs down, yes. If he pushes forward, you might need to testify. But I don't think it'll come to that. He's bluffing, trying to scare us. Once he knows we have a witness, he'll settle again. I took a deep breath, thought about those two women, about everything they had been through, about the courage it took to confront Westbrook, about the justice they'd fought so hard to get. I signed my name, dated it, and pushed the papers back across the table. Patricia smiled for the first time since sitting down. Thank you. You're doing the right thing. I hope so. She put the papers back in a folder, started to stand up, then stopped. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you pick up the phone that night? Most people would just walk past it. I thought about that moment on the platform, about the choice I'd made without really thinking about it. I don't know, maybe curiosity, or just I saw something and couldn't ignore it, couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. Patricia's expression softened slightly. Those world needs more people like you, people who can't ignore things, who pay attention, who care enough to get involved even when it's uncomfortable. She left after that, walked out of the coffee shop and disappeared into the afternoon crowd. I sat there a little while longer, finishing my coffee that had gone cold, thinking about what I'd just done. I'd gotten more involved, deeper than I'd ever intended. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was a participant, part of the official record, part of the story, and I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Over the next 2 weeks, I jumped every time my phone rang, expecting it to be Patricia or a court summons or Westbrook's lawyers or the police, but nothing came. No calls, no messages, no subpoenas, just silence. I went back to work, tried to focus on my job, on spreadsheets and marketing campaigns and quarterly reports, but part of my mind was always elsewhere, wondering what was happening, whether Westbrook had backed down,
whether the settlement would stand. Then, 2 weeks after signing the statement, I got an email from Patricia Morrison. Subject line, "Thank you." I opened it with shaking hands. "The matter has been resolved. Westbrook has agreed to honor the original settlement terms. Your statement was instrumental in reaching this conclusion. The women you helped want you to know how grateful they are. They asked me to pass along their thanks and to tell you that justice, when it finally comes, is sweeter because people like you exist. They wish you well."
That was it. Short and professional. But those words hit me harder than I expected. Justice had come. Not perfect justice, maybe, not everything they deserved, but something real, something solid, something they could build their lives on. And I'd helped make that happen. Not by being a hero, not by doing anything dramatic, just by paying attention, by caring, by being willing to sign my name to what I'd seen. I read that email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and sat in my quiet apartment, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard. That night I slept better than I had since finding the phone. No anxiety, no what-ifs, no spinning thoughts, just deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I felt different, lighter somehow, like a weight I'd been carrying for 3 months had finally been lifted. I went about my day normally. Work, lunch, more work, commute home, made dinner, watched TV, the ordinary rhythm of life. But something had shifted. I found myself paying attention more, noticing things. The woman on the subway who looked upset, the guy at the coffee shop who seemed stressed, the coworker who was quieter than usual. I didn't insert myself into their problems, didn't try to be a hero, but I noticed. I saw them. I was present. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes just being seen helps. A month after Patricia's email, I was back on that same subway platform. Same time, Tuesday evening, coming home from work. The platform was crowded as always, people everywhere, everyone on their phones, lost in their own worlds. And there, on the ground near my feet, was another phone, just lying there. Screen dark, no one around it seemed to notice or care. My heart started pounding. Not again. Please, not again. I looked at it for a long moment, remembered everything that had happened last time, all the fear, all the anxiety, all the complications. But I also remembered the good parts, the lesson, the growth, the feeling of having helped someone even in a small way. I bent down, picked it up. This time the screen was locked with a passcode. I couldn't see anything, couldn't read any messages. I turned it in to the station attendant. Found this on the platform, someone probably looking for it. She thanked me, took the phone, put it in a lost and found box behind her desk. And that was it. That was all. No drama, no mystery, no 3-day spiral of confusion and fear. Just a phone, just a good deed, just the right thing to do. I walked away feeling good about that choice, about doing the simple, straightforward thing instead of getting pulled into something bigger. But I also knew that if that phone hadn't been locked, if I'd seen messages that concerned me, I probably would have done the same thing all over again. Read them, tried to understand, cared enough to get involved. Because that's who I'd become. Someone who paid attention, someone who couldn't ignore things, someone who showed up. That phone 3 months ago had changed me, made me more present, more aware, more willing to engage with the world instead of just passing through it. And I was grateful for that. Even with all the anxiety and fear and complications it had caused, I was grateful. Because I'd learned something important, that ordinary moments can become extraordinary, that small choices can have big consequences, that caring about strangers isn't weakness, it's strength, and that sometimes the most important thing you can do is just pay attention, notice when something's wrong, be willing to help even when it's uncomfortable. The weeks turned into months again. Life continued its normal rhythm. Work, friends, family, the ordinary stuff that fills our days. But I carried those lessons with me. That awareness, that willingness to engage, that understanding that we're all connected in ways we don't always see. 6 months after finding the phone, I was having coffee with Jessica. She was complaining about a situation at work, a manager who was making inappropriate comments to her, making her uncomfortable. Have you reported it? I asked. She shook her head. What's the point? He's been there for years. Everyone loves him. No one would believe me. Or they'd say I'm being too sensitive or I can't take a joke. You know how it goes. I did know exactly how it goes. How the system fails people. How power protects power. How victims get silenced and blamed. What if I went with you to HR as a witness? I've heard him talk to you. I've seen how he makes you uncomfortable. You wouldn't be alone. Jessica looked surprised. You do that? Of course. That's what friends do. We protect each other. We stand up for each other. We make sure people can't keep hurting people. The words sounded familiar as I said them. Then I realized why. They were almost exactly what Em had said in those messages. That's what friends are for. We look out for each other. Jessica's eyes got watery. Thank you. That means a lot. We went to HR the next day, together, and because it was two of us, because it wasn't just her word against his, they took it seriously, opened an investigation. The manager was put on leave. Other women came forward, shared similar stories. He was fired 2 weeks later, and Jessica got her peace back, her confidence back, her power back, just like those women 3 months ago had gotten theirs. That's when I really understood what that phone had taught me. It wasn't just about paying attention. It was about doing something with what you notice, about being willing to stand up, to speak up, to show up for people who need it. Because justice doesn't just happen, it's made by ordinary people who care enough to get involved, who refuse to look away, who understand that staying silent is a choice too. 1 year after finding the phone, I saw an article online, a feature story about workplace harassment and women who had fought back. It profiled several cases where victims had sought justice outside traditional channels. Near the end of the article, there was a section about Richard Westbrook. It didn't name the women who had accused him, didn't give details about the settlement, but it mentioned that after stepping down from his company, he'd been quietly blacklisted from his industry, that multiple companies had severed ties with him, that his reputation was effectively destroyed. The article quoted an unnamed source close to the situation. Sometimes the system fails, but that doesn't mean justice is impossible. It just means you have to be creative, brave, willing to fight in ways the system doesn't expect. I read that quote several times, wondered if it was from one of the women, wondered if they were doing okay, if they'd found success and happiness and peace. I hoped they had. They deserved it. That night I cleaned out old files on my laptop, organizing, making space. I came across a folder I'd forgotten about, screenshots from that first night, the messages I'd photographed from the burner phone. I'd thought I'd deleted them all, but these had been automatically backed up to the cloud, saved without me realizing it. I looked through them one more time, read those messages again, remembered the fear I'd felt reading them that first night, how certain I was that someone was going to get hurt, how wrong I'd been about what that meant. Then I selected all the screenshots, moved them to trash, emptied the trash, deleted them from the cloud backup, made absolutely sure they were gone forever. Those women deserved their privacy, deserved to have their story belong to them alone. I'd played my small part, signed my statement, helped them get justice, but the rest of it, the messages, the planning, the fear and courage and determination, that was theirs, not mine to keep, not mine to share. I closed my laptop feeling good about that choice, about finally letting go completely. 2 years after finding the phone, I was promoted at work, manager position, more responsibility, more pay, more influence over company policy. One of the first things I did was work with HR to strengthen our harassment reporting procedures, make them more accessible, more transparent, more protective of people who came forward. Some of my colleagues asked why I cared so much about this particular issue. I just said it seemed important, that I'd seen too many situations where the system failed people. They didn't need to know about the phone, about the messages, about that Thursday night, about any of it. But I carried those lessons with me into everything I did, every decision I made, every policy I influenced, every person I managed.
I thought about those women often. I wondered where they were, what they were doing, if they ever thought about that phone they'd lost, about the stranger who'd found it and read their messages. Probably not. They'd moved on, built new lives, found new success. That phone was just a small moment in their journey,
a minor detail in a much larger story. But for me, it had been everything. The moment that woke me up, made me present, made me someone who paid attention and cared and showed up. I'd probably never see them again, would never know how their stories continued, would never get to tell them directly how grateful I was for the lessons they'd taught me without knowing it. But that was okay. That was how it should be. Their fight hadn't been for me. Their justice hadn't been about me. I was just someone who'd witnessed a small part of it, who'd helped in a small way. And that was enough. More than enough. 5 years after finding the phone, I was sitting in that same coffee shop. Different reason this time, meeting a friend for dinner, but I'd arrived early and decided to get coffee while I waited. I sat at a table by the window, not the same table as that night, different section, but with a view of the same street, the same building, Westbrook's building, except it wasn't his anymore. The company had been completely restructured, new leadership, new name, new culture. I'd followed it loosely over the years, seen the changes, the improvements, the focus on workplace safety and respect. Those women had done that. Their courage, their refusal to stay silent, their creativity in seeking justice. They'd changed more than just their own lives. They'd changed an entire company culture, protected people they'd never met, made the world a little bit better. As I sat there thinking about this, the door opened. A woman walked in. Brown hair, professional clothes, confident walk. It was her, the woman in the hoodie, the owner of the phone. Older now, 5 years older, but definitely her. My heart started racing. Should I say something? Introduce myself? Thank her? But she didn't see me, didn't recognize me. Why would she? She'd never known I was there that night, never known I'd found her phone. She ordered coffee, sat down at a table on the other side of the shop, pulled out her laptop, started working. She looked good, healthy, happy, successful. Everything I'd hoped for. I finished my coffee quietly, left before my friend arrived, texted them to meet me at a different restaurant instead. Because this was her space, her coffee shop, her place where she'd taken her power back, and I didn't want to intrude on that, didn't want to make it about me. Walking away from that coffee shop, I felt something settle in my chest, a final piece of peace clicking into place. This was really over now. The story had come full circle. She was okay, better than okay, thriving, and I could finally let it go completely, stop carrying it, stop wondering, stop checking for updates. She was fine. They were all fine. Justice had been served. Lessons had been learned. Life had moved on, and so could I. That night, for the first time in 5 years, I didn't think about the phone before falling asleep, didn't replay the messages or the confrontation or any of it. I just slept, deep and peaceful and dreamless. Because sometimes stories end, not with fireworks or dramatic revelations, but with quiet closure, with seeing someone living well, with knowing that your small part mattered, but that it's okay to let go now. The phone had taught me to pay attention, to care, to show up, to be present in the world instead of just passing through it. Those lessons stayed with me, shaped who I became, how I lived, how I treated people, how I used whatever power I had to make things better. But the story itself, the specific details of those 3 days, of those messages, of that Thursday night, those could finally rest, could finally become just a memory, just something that happened once, just a moment that changed me, but didn't define me. I was more than that phone now, more than those 3 days, more than that one choice to pick something up instead of walking past. I was someone who'd learned to pay attention, to care, to show up, and then learned when to let go, when to trust that things worked out, when to move on. And lying there in my bed that night, 5 years after it all began, I finally understood what that phone had really given me. Not answers, not closure, not even justice, though I'd helped others find theirs. What it had given me was presence, awareness, the understanding that every moment matters, that every choice counts, that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences just by paying attention. That was the gift. That was the lesson. That was what I carried forward into everything I did. Not the anxiety or the fear or the confusion, but the growth, the change, the person I'd become because of it. And I was grateful for all of it, even the hard parts,
especially the hard parts, because easy lessons don't stick. Comfortable lessons don't change us. But that phone, those messages, that Thursday night, they'd been hard and uncomfortable and scary, and they'd changed everything, made me into someone better, someone more aware, someone who couldn't walk past a problem without noticing it, someone who couldn't stay silent when someone needed help. That person was worth the fear, worth the anxiety, worth every uncomfortable moment of those 3 days and the months that followed. That person was who I was meant to become. And the phone, lost on a crowded subway platform on an ordinary Tuesday evening, had been the catalyst for that transformation, not because it was special, but because I'd chosen to pick it up, to care, to pay attention, to show up. Those choices had made all the difference, and they still did, every day, in every interaction, in every decision. I was awake now, present now, engaged with the world in ways I'd never been before, all because of a phone I found 5 years ago, a phone that belonged to a woman I'd never spoken to, a phone that contained messages I'd never been meant to read, a phone that had changed my life by showing me how much courage it takes to seek justice when the system fails, and how much difference one person can make just by paying attention, by caring, by showing up. That was the story. That was the lesson. That was what mattered. Everything else, all the specific details, all the particular moments, those could fade now, because the truth they'd revealed would stay with me forever. We're all connected. Our choices matter. Justice is possible, and ordinary people can do extraordinary things. That was what the phone had taught me, and I would carry those lessons for the rest of my life. The end.